So, where to start? I really don't know what to say, but I it's been laid on me to give this testimony for a minute, and I think now it's time to share. Something big has happened in mine and my family's lives here recently. What seems like tragedy actually turned into a blessing, which also led into another tragedy and a moment for us to understand and learn from a situation. And I know a lot of you are going to say, well, Dwight, sometimes life just sucks and stuff happens. But here's the thing, y'all. You all got to understand is that yes, life does suck, and yes, things do happen. Bad things do happen to good people. But to put your faith and your trust in God, regardless of what the outcome is quite difficult. It's definitely not easy. Not in the slightest, not even a little bit. It's not easy at all. We recently lost our home due to my mother-in-law's sleeping partner. Let's just call him that, because they're not married. They're cohabitating. I'm not going to name any names, but this person decided to cause some trouble because me and my wife didn't want her 50 cats in the house we were living in, which we were supposed to be renting from her. And yeah, they moved in on us, took one of the bedrooms from us because they owned the property, even though we were renting the house from them. They took one of the bedrooms and just posted up in there and would consistently cause problems and cause drama. Her boyfriend would consistently lie about us owing him money, trying to take more money from us. In which, when you send somebody rent on Cash App, there's a paper trail. So you can prove that, hey, I indeed did pay you this amount on this day. You can't say that I didn't do it. Well, you could tell somebody they're a fish all they want, but if they believe that they're a horse, you're not going to convince them otherwise. I know that seems like a silly analogy to make, but it's true. You can't convince anybody of anything. If somebody thinks that they're right in this situation, they're going to continue to think that they're right, and there's nothing you can really do about it. It's just, okay, well, whatever. What are you going to do? Sit there and argue with the person? And just make the situation worse? So, me and my wife are sitting in the living room one day, and we're watching a movie called A Time to Kill with Samuel L. Jackson, where his daughter gets hurt by these redneck guys, and the system won't do anything about it, and so he decides to take the law into his own hands and end these redneck guys' life. Well, he ends up going to trial, and within this trial, they try to prove that he is indeed a killer and that he should go to jail. All the while, some people were saying that he was a hero and all this. Well, my wife was saying that the character that most resembled her sperm donor was a child molester. And this guy her sperm donor was indeed a child molester. And we were talking about that, and my mother-in-law decides to go in her bedroom and tell her boyfriend that we were calling him a child molester. Which, how angry this guy got at the drop of a hat, didn't ask any questions, didn't decide to come in and talk to us, just comes barreling in, stomping, and screaming and hollering. And this guy had indeed attacked me before. And we ended up scrapping a little bit. I shouldn't have fought back. I should have just called the cops when he hit me, but it happens like that sometimes. And this dude loves to fight. And he's even bragged about fighting people. And he's one of those people, it's like, if you tell him he's less of a man, he's going to get more angry and try to fight you and prove how manly he is. And one of those situations is just extremely annoying. So this guy comes barreling in, and I'm like, I'm not going to fight this dude again. And he's barreling towards my, at the time, pregnant wife. We'll get to that here in a minute, because there's more to that story. So he comes running in, running as fast as he can, and stomping towards my pregnant wife, in which I was putting up the guns at the time. And I stopped and looked at the movie, and I was talking to my wife, and I had my guns in my hand, which I was putting them away because we were keeping one on top of the pantry. You know, I was like, well, I don't want my kids to grab a hold of one of these. And so I basically decided, all right, I'm going to get rid of this. So I went and grabbed the guns to go get rid of them. We stopped and looked at the movie. Was talking to my wife. She had brought up the child molester thing. He came running, barreling in, stomping, running as fast as he can, screaming, I ain't no GD child molester. In which I pulled one of my guns on him and pointed it at him. And I said, you come any closer and I'll do what I have to do. Well, he said, you ain't going to point no gun at me. You need to get out of my house. I said, you just came running at my pregnant wife screaming. You've attacked me before. How do I know that you weren't going to attack her? I don't care if you point a gun at me, you better be prepared to use it, which is a very dumb thing to say to somebody pointing a gun at you. Is if you point a gun at me, you better be prepared to use it. It's like antagonizing me, trying to get me to shoot him, in which not something I wanted to do. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to hurt nobody. So I put the gun away. Well, my mother-in-law decides to come in and call me a fat A. Then proceeded to call the cops. Like, again, both these people are trying to antagonize me and get me to flip out and get angry and hurt somebody, in which I'm not doing. I'm like, you know, I'm just here to protect my wife. That's all I'm doing. You've already shown your true colors. I know that you're a violent person, and I know that you have the capacity for violence. Like, this guy had beaten up a minor before we had even moved there, which we didn't even find out about that until we had moved there. This guy moved us all the way from New Mexico to Alabama with promises of a house, promises of like another vehicle that we can drive and all this stuff. And he's offering to give it to us, not sell it to us, to give it to us. So we're like, okay. So we sold our land in New Mexico and decided that we were going to go there. We were going to get a U-Haul and we were going to move there. No. Don't rent a U-Haul. Just give me that money and I'll get you guys there. We had 3 flat tires along the way because this guy was coming there with bald tires and a trailer that was falling apart. So he used all the leftover wood that I had on the property to cover this trailer. I had to buy the new tires for the trailer along the way. It took us an entire week to get from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Mobile, Alabama, which is insane. It's insane. It should be like a 4-day drive, and it took us an entire week. Just craziness. So we're doing all this. We're getting there, and like everything is all fine at first, but then we get inside. There's holes in the walls. There's holes in the floor. There's like 50 cats living there, and we've got our dogs from the property too, which they had 36 acres to run on. And my mother-in-law's boyfriend says like, oh, well, we're going to build a fence. Fence never happens. Oh, I'm going to cover these holes. Holes never get covered. As a matter of fact, he put our couch over one of the holes to cover it up. And, we're just dealing with thing after thing after thing, and we can't move at this point. We're like, all right, well, I guess we're just stuck here then. So we're stuck there for an entire year trying to turn a frown upside down, trying to polish a turd, and it's just not happening. Like, there's nothing happening. We're not getting any better. Our lives aren't getting any better. It's just one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. And I don't know what to do at this point. So, we're like, all right, let's go. Everybody pack up what you can carry and let's go. I'm like, we're homeless at this point. I'm like, here we are. We're homeless at this point. There's nothing nothing much we can do about it. So I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll figure it out. And so I get there. I get outside. And all my kids are standing around. And I just look at my son. I said, call your aunt. My sister. Call your aunt. And he's like, okay, well, what do I tell her? I'm like, just tell her what's going on. And see if she can come get us. And we can have a place to stay. Well, I'm going into this little creek area. And I'm going to sit down. So we get there. And then once we get there, or she gets there, rather, she comes and she picks us up. And we get to the place, like, we got to go and stay with my wife's Uncle Ben for a minute. You know, we go and we end up talking to him. And, you know, like, he says, well, you can stay here until your sister comes to get you. So that's exactly what we do. We go and we stay with Ben for a minute. And we're talking to him. We're explaining the situation to him. My sister comes to get us. We go back and get our stuff, and she says, don't forget your dogs. I'm like, woman, we are a family of 5 with a pregnant woman with nowhere to go. We've got to drop everything and go to my sister's house. Do you think we can take these dogs with us? No, these dogs are officially your responsibility now. You don't want us to take the Yukon that we've been paying you for, $200 a month, paying you for this GMC Yukon, told us we can't have it anymore. We had to give the key back, and then kicked us out that night. And I know everybody's going to be like, well, you could have gone through an eviction notice. I'm like, how am I going to feed my family without a job, without a vehicle? So think about that before you decide to come in and, you know, start going off on me about all that. So that's what happened there, you know. And so the cops, when the cops show up and everything, like, I'm not in trouble. They say, well, clearly this was self-defense, you know, like, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't shoot at him. You didn't, you know, all you did was point the gun at him and tell him don't come any closer. That's not bad, but this is an unsafe environment for you and your family to be in. We suggest you find somewhere to stay. I'm like, all right, well, you know, we already called my sister. My sister's on her way. It's about 2 hours. So we go and they're like, well, it's not safe for you to be here right now, so you need to go somewhere. So we go to my wife's Uncle Ben's, who's, you know, a really great guy. And we go through all that. My sister comes to get us. We go back. We pick up our stuff. She says, don't forget to take your dogs. Like, we got nowhere to take them. They're officially your responsibility now. So we leave. We end up with my sister, you know. We end up sleeping, you know, like, the rest of the night. We didn't get there until 4 o'clock in the morning. We end up sleeping the rest of the night. And the next day, start looking for jobs immediately. I was blessed with a job at this place called 4C Barbecue. It's a Christian company. And, you know, start working there, start building up. All the while, my mother-in-law is calling my wife's siblings, telling her that, you know, she's feeding the dogs, that we need to send her money for dog food. So, once again, no, you kicked us out with no vehicle. These dogs immediately became your responsibility because you kicked us out on our butts with nowhere to go. Like, we cannot take care of these dogs. They're officially your responsibility now. You made your bed, now lie in it, you know, type situation. So she ends up calling the cops again, and the cops call me, and I explain to them the situation. They're like, all right, well, you know, like, we're going to probably end up taking the dogs, like, one at a time. And I'm like, do what you got to do. But, like, I physically have nowhere to put them. Like, if I take them, I'm just starving my kids. It is what it is. We probably should have left them with somebody in New Mexico, but we were promised a fence. We were promised, like, all this other stuff, so we couldn't really do anything about it. All the while, I'm trusting in God. I'm like, God, I'm going to give all this to you. I'm not going to worry about a thing. Even, you know, when we were like, all right, pack whatever you can and let's go. You know, it was like, all right, God, whatever you got for us, I'm listening. I'm here. So my sister comes to get us and all this stuff, you know, and like, I'm clearly seeing that God is cradling us. Is like, all right, I've got you. My brother-in-law reminds me of this thing called pruning season, which is where God takes things out of your life in order to make you better, in order to help you grow and make you stronger. So now I'm looking at this as a pruning season. I'm like, okay, well, God is obviously removing something from my life that I don't need, and I'm gonna, just trust God. I'm gonna have, like, God, whatever it is, you take it. Jesus, take the wheel type scenario. So we're here. We're in Florida now. We're out of Alabama. It's 2 hours away from Mobile. And beautiful, like, we've got a little trail. That's where you saw me walking to. And there's this little creek with this little stream behind me. It's just beautiful and gorgeous. And, I'm happy. And I've got a promotion coming in at work where they are making me head chef over the kitchen, which is awesome. It's something that I've been praying for a long time. Like, Lord, let me lead, let me be over a kitchen, let me do that so that I can better provide for my family. And God is all about timing. That's what I'm learning here. Well, after all these blessings, this entire church called Crosspoint Church in Ponce de Leon, Pastor Mike and everybody have just been so good to us, showering us with clothes and helping us out with Christmas gifts, and even neighbors giving us money to buy Christmas gifts for our kids. And it's just blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing. And God is like, look, see, I've got you. I'm taking care of you. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody. Sometimes, it doesn't happen that way. And this too shall pass. You have to remember, there are seasons of abundance and there are seasons of lack. So then we get hit with another tragedy. My wife miscarried our unborn baby, Gunnar Blaze Cosin. I know he was a boy because God told me he was a boy. And when I'm weeping, and my wife is weeping, and we're crying in that hospital, and my sister's with us, and we're all crying, and we're all very emotional, and God just told me he's here with me. I've got him. He knows you, and you'll see him again. Or basically, you will see him. He didn't tell me you'll see him again. He's like, you'll see him. You will meet him. So I'm thinking, all right, Lord, our meeting is just prolonged, and I will see my son one day in paradise. My wife is handling it very, very well. We're understanding that this is not God's fault, that God did not take anything away from us, that this is just something that had to happen. And he didn't suffer. And he's in heaven with the Father. He's in paradise with the Father. The Father has got him. And one day, me and my wife will meet him. So even though we've been overwhelmed with tragedy and we've been overcome with bad thing after bad thing after bad thing, there are still blessings there. There are still things that God is doing in our lives that are making our lives better, that are making us stronger, that are making us, bringing us closer to Him. And I just wanted to share my testimony and tell all of you that even if God takes something away from you, He hasn't abandoned you. That He hasn't turned His face away from you, that He sees you. And He sees you in your heartbreak, and He sees you in your sadness. And He's there to take it from you and to tell you, look, there is something better coming. Just because it hurts right now doesn't mean it's going to hurt forever. And I just want all of you to know that we can do this together. Each and every one of us. Look towards the light. If you are currently dealing with a tragedy, if you are currently dealing with loss, I would plead for you to keep your heads on. And don't lose sight and don't blame God. Keep following Him. Because just because a miracle didn't happen doesn't mean that it's bad. I trust God's will and I trust God's plan more than anything. And that this too shall pass. But I will never forget my son, Gunnar Blaze Cosin, and that I will see him one day. But out of all of this tragedy, something good has to come out of it. I believe something good is going to come out of it. And I pray that God stays with my family. And I ask that you keep us in your prayers as we move forward in this new year, 2025. It is January 1st, 2025, the first day of the new year. My goal for this year is to read the Bible in its entirety. I'm in the book of Acts right now, but to read the Bible in its entirety, to pray every day, to go on a walk every day and converse with my Lord and trust His will, and to share that with you. So every day, I'm going to take a little walk down here to this stream, and I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you what I'm going through, and I'm going to tell you what the Lord has taught me. So with that being said, I hope that all of you understand that I will not stop following the Lord, and that my faith is now stronger than ever. And I will try to see the devil's traps, and I hope that you will do the same. Keep your eyes open, keep your heart soft, and love the Lord. And trust the Lord, no matter what happens. Just saying.